LVMH, Bernard Arnault. Are you guys familiar with who Bernard Arnault is? Bernard Arnault is largely believed to be the wealthiest man in the world. The wealthiest man in the world. I'm going to be reading super chat shortly. Let's go ahead and get into the video, ladies and gentlemen, so that we can mine through this, because Bernard Arnault and the LVMH luxury dominance is in full effect.
Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Tiffany. Some of the most popular luxury brands in the world, all housed under one roof. Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, or LVMH. Founded in 1854, Louis Vuitton is one of the most storied and iconic luxury brands. The singular brand has since grown into a powerhouse of 75 brands, or maisons as they are formally called.
So everything that you see, practically from a luxury perspective, almost everything that you see, you know, it's funny because the more that I research and the more that I learn about Louis Vuitton, or I'm sorry, Bernard Arnault and all of his children and how he's prepping them and the schools that he sent them to, I really did I spent probably like 3 hours straight just mining through, researching, learning every single thing that I could about each one of his kids, understanding what school he sent them to and all of this other type of stuff, right? And when you start to really understand that he owns over 75 brands that even overlap each other, you have to then start to evaluate how people view assets versus how it is that we look at money, right? Somebody told me the other day, they said, Anton, but you ain't cash rich. And I said, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to be cash rich? Let me rewind it a little bit. Let me show you some of the other brands. Givenchy, Christian Dior, Kat Von D owns Kat Von D. Fendi perfumes, Fendi Beauty or Fenty Beauty, Fenty Beauty by Rihanna. Did y'all know that Bernard Arnault had a stake in Fenty Beauty by Rihanna? I bet you didn't even know that. I bet that while y'all sitting there on these websites making sure that y'all can shop, you didn't even know that they had a investment stake inside of who it is that you celebrate is one of the most successful female entrepreneurs all the time, and you keep shaking your head and all of this other stuff. Don't you understand that they just the face of a lot of this stuff, and they have a huge cash and equity investment in what's going on in all of these different brands? I bet you didn't know it. Look at the rest of the brands. As they are
formally called.
You can
Marc Jacobs, because it's a perfume division on some of these places, and it's actually a textile division of some of these places. Louis Vuitton, Pink, Fendi, Celine. So every time you see these rappers and they rapping about Celine, but don't you know that they not even getting paid from these brands? Y'all know that they not even, Marc Jacobs, you think you shop, you did something different. Yeah, she think that she gonna get that. Well, I'm a rock. I ain't getting me no Louis Vuitton. I'm gonna get me a Christian Dior bag. It's the same brand.
and think long term, like Louis Vuitton, for instance. I'm not that much interested by the number of the next 6 months. What I am interested in is that the desire for the brand will be the same in 10 years as it is today.
His desire is for the, or his goal for the brand is not maximizing the amount of money that he can make right now. When I study these people, honestly, when I study these people and I look at them and I look at their strategy, there's a common thread and theme between every person that's become mega successful and mega rich. And you know what it is? It's they don't look at capitalizing off of what it is that they can make from something right now. They only care about what it is that they can make long term. They want you to love what it is that they do 10 years from now. I'm never worried or concerned about fast growth. I'm never worried or concerned about continuing to grow based off of what I need to do right now. I'm looking to establish a brand that will last 10, 15, 20 years from now. Every single change, every single investment, everything I do, even the modification this week, this platform looks completely different than what it looked like last week. It's continued growth. Let's continue.
The company is notorious for posting record year after record year, and 2022 was no different. It drew $86.3 billion in revenue, which is up a healthy 23% from 2021.
Do you know what a revenue gain of 23% year over year is, even after coming off of the pandemic where everybody was getting free money and he's making more? Listen, it's a recession. Think about this, y'all. There's a literal impending recession, and they have profits and revenue up over 23%.
The company recorded revenue of $22.9 billion in the first quarter of 2023.
They're on their way to be close to $100 billion in revenue in 1 year. The only reason we know this is because this information is publicly available. Isn't it funny that we'll look up rap lyrics, but we won't actually look up to understand exactly what the quarterly revenue and what the margins are? Do you know what a margin is? Don't worry. We always put the medicine inside of the candy here at the Millionaire Morning Show. Margins is exactly what you make based off of how much revenue that you extract, right? So let's say, for example, somebody might tell me, Anton, man, my business is booming. Boy, I made $1 million last year. And I say, okay, so that's what you gross. But what was your net? Right? What was your net? Well, my net was only $80,000. That means that it cost you almost $1 million in order to get the inventory that you then are moving, not just the inventory, the logistics, the shipping, the cost that's associated with you continuing to build the brand, the business, marketing, tools, resources, employees, every single thing it takes in order to run that business, right? That means that you're generating revenue of $1 million, but your ability to be able to make money is a completely different conversation. A lot of people think that just because they generate revenue, that translates over into getting rich. It doesn't. It does not. Now, if you got a 10% margin, and that means that you're making about 10% on whatever it is that you generate. So if you generate $1 million in revenue, then you should be making $100,000. When I look at Tesla's quarterly reports, and I look at Ford's quarterly reports, and I look at Toyota's quarterly reports, and I look at how many more cars that traditional automakers and people that make internal combustion engines, which is one of the reasons that they're trying to move over into electric, because they're trying to drive the costs out of making vehicles. It's the reason why when you get into this vehicle and it's a Chrysler 300, right? And the window roller downer things or whatever, or the window latches is the exact same as the window latches inside of a minivan, is because they're driving the cost out in order to increase the margins, right? They may be using the exact same factory to make the same cars, or they may be using the exact same platforms, right? In order to create multiple different models. I looked at the recent Porsche Cayenne that just came out, or the one that they previewing that's going to be available for sale. And if I look inside of my Porsche Taycan, they've taken what it was that they've built as far as the actual screens, the 3-screen view that they're using in an electric vehicle, and they're importing into the new Porsche Cayenne. They're literally lowering the cost of manufacturing so that they can increase the margins. If you look at Tesla's margin, because they don't have to have as many moving parts and everything like that, but they still investing in the company, their margins as an electric car company, which is one of the reasons why they're so much more profitable every quarter and they can lower the cost to be able to sell a car, is much higher than maybe a Ford Motor Company, General Motors, or Toyota. Okay? So when you look at margins or you look at revenue, I want you to be able to separate it, because now that we having this conversation from a C student's perspective, you can understand the difference between gross revenue, how much money that they made selling the car, versus how much profit that they are able to extract based off of all of the different things that they have to spend in order to get that vehicle over into your driveway.
Up 17% compared to the same period in 2022. and reached a stock price of $191.99 on May 11, 2023. Its store count more than quintupled between 1999 and 2022, with stores across 81 countries and more than 196,000 employees worldwide, making it a true leader in luxury by multiple measures.
I would argue
I will be reading super chats throughout the show.
that next to Apple, no other company on the planet dominates their industry as completely as LVMH.
At the helm of the massive ship is the world's richest man, Bernard Arnault.
I'm not studying the Dusty Dusties. I don't give a fuck about what Jay-Z is doing. And it's funny because every time I give some advice or I tell somebody something, they say, well, Jay-Z did this. Hey, man, you probably need to present yourself a little bit differently, dress a little bit differently. You might need to cut your hair. Well, Jay-Z got breads. I'm not studying Jay-Z. I'm studying Bernard Arnault. Give a fuck about what Jay-Z doing? I care about I'm not studying fucking Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. I'm studying the person that actually bought into and is the controlling stakeholder in their company. I want to understand how the family moves, how they look at things from a long-term perspective. How do they continue to find themselves even invested in the brands that you love the most, and then they promote it without you even understanding that they own it?
Pre-pandemic, the luxury segment had already been outperforming other categories in the global apparel market, and the trend has only accelerated in 2021 and onwards. The luxury and premium segments delivered shareholder returns of 33.2% and 18% during the pandemic.
Bernard Arnault has very clear vision in terms of the overall strategy of what he sees as the purpose of the group, this idea of creating brands that can be eternal.
LVMH's storied history begins in 1837. It was founded by a craftsman's apprentice, Louis Vuitton, who had a start in master trunk making. At the time, the popular modes of transportation were horse-drawn carriages, boats, and trains, which made craftsmen valuable to the working class. Eventually, Louis Vuitton founded his house in Paris in 1854. In 1886,
People are saying, well, what do Jay-Z got to do with this? Jay got caught 2 strays for nothing. It's not for nothing. I had a conversation last week with a guy, and they referenced Jay-Z in order to justify their behavior or their unwillingness to listen to the advice that I was giving them that was going to help them get a bigger bag. And so what I'm telling you guys is that it's not a stray, it's an example to illustrate what it is that I'm trying to communicate to you. Is that when you study the greats, the question that I have to ask you is, who do you see as a great? And do we only look at rappers, entertainers, and basketball players as reference points in order to understand exactly how it is that you need? Okay, I'll give you another example. Would you rather I say Byron Allen and how it is that he present himself in order to better substantiate what it is that I'm saying?
Georges Vuitton revolutionized luggage locks by developing a closing system that turned travel trunks into real treasure chests. In 1987, Louis Vuitton merged with Moet Hennessy, giving birth to its current moniker, LVMH. Louis Vuitton's CEO between 1988 and 1995, Vincent Bastien, brought a different strategy to the brand.
My basic idea was, if luxury is focused only on very rich people, you have no market. You need to become democratic but not vulgar. If you try to implement the usual business strategy you learn in any business school to a luxury group, it's just a disaster.
In collaboration with Bernard Arnault, Bastien witnessed an early master in luxury.
Each time he bought a brand, he kept the team in place. He's extremely intelligent for this. He knows that each brand has to have his own personality. Bernard.
Y'all need to go and watch the movie, The House of Gucci. I think that's what it was called. I actually watched it on a plane, and I don't remember where I was traveling to. I might have been going over to Vegas. But y'all need to go and watch the movie, The House of Gucci. The family that actually created it don't even own it anymore. The Gucci family don't even own it. It was bought out. How he looks at things from a business perspective. The business schools and the engineering schools that he went to and then he subsequently had to get his kids into, which some of his kids didn't even qualify to get into. I'm always evaluating how it is that I can leverage their business strategy in order to continue to build up a brand or to continue to push. It was starring Lady Gaga, and it was an incredible movie. You will learn so many different business principles and how it is that you need to operate in life from watching those type of movies. When I watch movies, I don't watch them for entertainment. I watch them to learn certain things that I can then apply to my life.
Arnault has a real sense of luxury. He understands fashion. He understands art. Each time I had a new line of product, I presented it to him, and he found the right problems immediately. He has a very strong intuition, and he's very courageous. He takes risks.
LVMH's aggressive acquisition strategy and exceptionally wide portfolio lends itself to Arnault's watchfulness as a businessman.
He started looking for gems, for things that were undervalued, even outside of what his company had done previously.
The Arnault family's supremacy is internally...
Now, look at these three guys right there. Look at these guys right here. A lot of people would just completely overlook this part of the conversation, and they would just continue to listen to it because they're only looking for the luxury, the entertainment, and all of that. Look at them. Study them. Study how they carry themselves. Study how they dress. Study how you don't even hear from them and you don't even really know who they are. These are his sons. How do I know? Because a little while ago, I don't know, it might have even been like a month ago, I studied him. I studied his daughters. I studied his sons. I understood where each talent lie, how it is that he runs his family. And these are literally the people that are running the different brands that he's created, and he's input into them exactly how it is that he sees and thinks, and how he's implementing his vision and his strategy across the world, literally, right? He's not looking to build brands from scratch either. He's looking to take a distressed brand or a brand where he can see an opportunity to continue to leverage it as a part of the portfolio. The same exact strategy that these technology companies have, in which they may swallow up. If you even remember a Facebook, right? And Facebook at one point actually made a proposition to buy Snap. Now, prior to them actually buying Snap, which Snap is pretty much dying at this point, they made a proposition and they successfully purchased Instagram, right? And so they wasn't necessarily looking to build the business from scratch. They're leveraging what somebody is already doing awesome. How many of y'all know what Microsoft's recent acquisition was? That was approved by the EU. How many people in here that's watching this right now is familiar with what was approved in order to ensure that they didn't have a monopoly and all of this other type of stuff, because they got to go through regulation and approval? How many people are familiar with what Microsoft recently got approved for over in the EU in order to buy? For the equivalent of about $75 billion. $75 billion. How many people are familiar with that? I see you. Suber, Beautiful Disaster, Dose, DK. Are y'all familiar with the idea that it recently got approval over in the EU? Do you know why that they look to buy Activision? I'm going to let y'all sit on that for a minute. Let's continue.
Well cemented. All 5 of Arnault's children hold key management roles. An executive at Christian Dior, an EVP at Tiffany, a chairman and CEO of LVMH's holding company Christian Dior SE, among other roles, a CEO of Tag Heuer, and a director of marketing and development.
A family business, especially in the luxury area, is key for success.
Luxury, by definition, has heritage. It has legacy. And that's what you find in the consistency of a family.
Arnault's leadership is described as ruthless. LVMH's growth was so rapid, net income surpassed the $1 billion mark in 2004.
His leadership style is ruthless, even when he's having conversations with his children. I even studied all the way up to the point to where I know how often he actually meets with his children in order to discuss every single thing related to business. And they have a timer, they have a clock. Everything is rocking like clockwork because of how it is that they view their time and where it is that they need to be after that meeting. Why wouldn't I study the richest man in the world?
By comparison, Kering, then known as Pinot Printemps Redoute, and owner of brands such as Gucci, YSL, and Balenciaga, reached $1.1 billion the same year.
Y'all didn't know Balenciaga was also under this umbrella? When you walk through and you go through the designer district and you see Louis Vuitton and Tag Heuer and all of this other type of stuff and how they're leveraging and trying to promote the brand and compete with Omega and Rolex and stuff like that. Did you know that watch brands, drinks? Did you know that all of these bags that your girl keep asking for and she think that she all of that, did you know that all of that was under this umbrella? And that all of the kids was overlooking everything in order to ensure that they continue to bring prestige to the brand and sell it at a higher price?
Between 2009 and 2011, the company saw an enormous 75% increase in net income.
Now, between 2009 and 2011, think about this, y'all. Let's remember, 2009 to 2011 is the time that we instituted Barack Obama in order to fix the economy, meaning that the housing market was floundering, prices was anemic, people were absolutely, positively losing their homes. You couldn't sell a home. Interest rates was nothing. They started doing cash for clunkers. They was begging you to bring in your clunker in order to buy a new car. And guess what? Sales was through the roof and growing at 75% during a time when everybody else was fucked up. There was no recession for a certain class of people. There is no recession for a certain class of people. And so when I'm trying to communicate to y'all on a regular basis that this isn't a race war, this is a class war, I need you to hear me. I need you to really take it in. I need you to really, really pay attention to what we communicating to you, because there will be no recession for a certain group of us. There's only opportunity for us to grab up more of what it is that you think is valuable to you so that we can sell it to you at a higher price and price you out and allow for you to compete with your neighbor in order for you to really be able to get into these houses and get into these brands and get into whatever it is that we do. Listen. The only thing I care about at this point, and this is what these people teach me when I'm reviewing all of this stuff. The only thing that I care about at this point is assets. That is the only thing that matters when it comes to this class war. It is not the color of your skin. It is not where you went to school. I recently got recruited, and me and my wife, we were driving down a specific lane because we had noticed that a set of houses existed in this like little cubby. And it's over in Orchard Lake Road. And I was talking to a guy, and I said, yeah, I went and, me and my wife, and we was over there looking at these group of houses that's off the water, and they're incredibly expensive, right? And so I'm like, it's a piece of land over there that I want to buy because, eventually I want to possibly build a house over there. And he was like, oh, okay, meet me here. So we met him at the golf course. That's literally, you have to drive through the golf course in order to get over into these pieces of property. They recruit you at the golf course in order to become a member at that country club because they recognize your ability to be able to add value based off of the assets that you own. They don't give a fuck about what color you are. And when I went in there, I realized, oh, wait, man, it's a stigma that's associated with it. Because Rita said, I thought all of the people would just be white or whatever, so on and so forth. It was Italians. It was Asians in there. We seen another black family. There was a lot of people in there, and they were based off of trying to figure out how they can continue to add to themselves by adding to you and having you a part of their network. If they see value in you based off of what it is that you do for a living, then they start to leverage that relationship in order to continue to build. They're not focused on what color you are at this point. They only, even if they are for themselves and their own family, they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot in order to not do business with you if they can use that in order to continue to level up. You got to figure out where to use them also. The goal for them is to be used so that they can use you but not be misused, and that's the difference. There is no recession with a certain group of people. It's a class war. It's not a race war.
Its international reach in Asia, a market it originally entered via Hong Kong in 1992, when its international presence was strengthening dramatically. Between 2003, the earliest available earnings report from LVMH's records, and 2022, the company has posted record revenue year after year.
That's crazy.
Anish
That is
Mawani, the
crazy.
LVMH North America chairman and CEO,
And the only time where sales dipped slightly, if you look at this, was when the pandemic first hit, and then it took off way above that. When they had to close the stores, but right after that, literally a year after that, it eclipsed the year before that, and it continues to go up.
Since 2016, says the company's focus on storytelling and brand building have been key to the company's success.
Luxury is connected to the human emotion of accomplishment. And so people buy luxury, whether it's handbags or jewelry or prestige makeup, because they have gotten to a place where they can afford the superior quality and they want to participate in the storytelling that is behind those brands.
There's a broad array of price points. So you have a very expensive bag, such as a Capuchin, at thousands of dollars or more, and then you have small leather goods at price points of $200 to $600. The broad array of price points also enables a broader appeal too.
And let me tell you what the real goal is. Storytelling, prestige, then you wind up selling their products for them. And more importantly, the broader range of price points allow for you to then look at what it is that you really want as a halo product, and you eventually work your way up to it. It's just like a car. You may start off with a belt. You're going to spend a couple $100s on a belt. Can you afford it? Technically, no. Is it within your price range to where you can find yourself a way into it? Absolutely. If you go over to Hermes, it's very hard for you to be able to get an appointment to get the bags that you want. And they make it like that so that you can work your way up through it. Even when you're buying certain cars, you have to first start off here and then you work your way up to it, because your ability, and believe it or not, this is the funniest part about it. Often at times when you reach a certain price point and you spending money on on some of these cars, if you get a specific type of car at a certain price point, it actually over time will appreciate and become worth more than it was when you purchased it. Once you hit a certain price point on whatever it is that you buy, you are A, protecting your assets, B, leveraging your money, and then C, continuing to increase your net worth because you starting to purchase things that appreciate over time. I'm going to let you sit on that for a minute.